get my 6. What's up, everybody? What a beautiful October-esque scene What a beautiful October-esque scene behind me here. There's something we love to do in October around here. It's tell spooky Halloween stories. And we're going to do that. I've got a really good spooky Halloween story coming up for you here today. We like to make noise, but there's something else we like to do, and that's go fishing. We love to fish in the spring. We love to fish in the fall. But I have one annoyance when it comes to fishing, and we're going to fix that today by way of our sponsor, Beaver. We're going to show you what we're going to do, but then we're going to tell a very creepy Halloween-flavored story. All right, so I got to make my way back here to get my fishing poles and my kayaks. My goodness gracious, we got everything in here but the kitchen sink. Oh, wait, there's the kitchen sink. All right, so anyway, look. Here's how we've been keeping our fishing rods and our reels and our tackle. It's all just a strung out mess. And then we come over here, we try to grab one rod, and they're all either attached down there at the reels or they're attached mixed up together at the line. We're going to fix this mess today by way of our sponsor, Beaver. All right, guys, so today I'm going to be assembling Beaver fishing rod holders. This is what it's supposed to look like. Let's hope we get to that point. Now, as I was using my box cutter to slice the tape open, I did accidentally cut the styrofoam stuff there. So that wasn't Beaver's doing, that was mine. I always like to show you how well they package their products. This way it ensures that the products come here undamaged. I've never received any product from Beaver that is damaged, not even a single part of it. Clearly there's a lot of pieces to this product, so there's going to be a lot of screwing around to do. You see that? I just want to point out that the instruction manuals with Beaver products are always very clear. And but I'm going to be putting this thing together inside because it's cold out here this morning, and I'm not going to waste your time by recording the whole thing. I'll basically put it together. Man, I can't do anything out here until after I've fed the birds. They're screaming for their food. But I will keep an eye on how much time it takes me to put this all together. And then I'll tell you that when I show you the final product there at the end. And then we will get to our creepy Halloween story. Okay, guys, FYI, I spent about 10 minutes unboxing every single part, taking the plastic wrappers off, and putting it in order. Beaver does a great job of numbering their parts. You see the little stickers there. I've got everything in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Here's the hardware. Here's the wheels that will go on the bottom. I've checked the parts with the owner's manual. Everything is here. There's only 2 tools required, and once again, Beaver has included both. There's the Allen wrench, and in this little bag of hardware where the wheels are is the other wrench. So I've just found in the past that by laying things out orderly, I know exactly where the parts are as I need them. This saves me a lot of time. The 10 minutes to do this probably saves me 30 minutes. So now I'm keeping the clock running. Again, if I get into any troubleshooting areas, I will film those. I probably won't, but I will definitely let you know how long it takes to assemble this thing. Well, guys, and here's the final product. I'm back outside, as you can tell by my spoiled ducks. But I started this at 8:08, and it is now 9:05, 9:06. So it takes just under an hour. I like the fact that it has wheels, because I just rolled it right out of the house, and I'll be rolling it right into the garage. And of course, you want to make sure it's empty when you roll it. The fishing pole just fell off. But I brought out one pole, tackle box, just to show you where things go. Got plenty of room on the shelves. You've got a lower bottom shelf, middle shelf, and even a top shelf. So I put an old tackle box on there. You bring your rods around here in the back. You see, just stick it down like that, and then it rests up again. Just that one there. We got enough room for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 rods. And then it's got hanging clips on the side. Got my net out here to show you what you can do with that. Now, here's some troubleshooting. I didn't stop to put this in the video at the time, but I'll point it out now. These hooks screw onto the frame as you're screwing in these bars all the way down. I learned that the hard way because I screwed on this, and then I was like, well, how do you put this on? Then I realized I had to take this out and then screw it on this way. You put them on together. So just keep that in mind as you're assembling it. But there you have, it's wonderful. It's less than $100 as of the recording of this video. It's going to allow us to make better use of our space, store our fishing gear more efficiently. The link for this product will be in the description box below. Now, let's get to our spooky story. Get my 6 again. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most amazing homesteading channel on the planet that typically doesn't have anything whatsoever to do with homesteading off the grid. Wasn't that a wonderful fishing rod and tackle and equipment rack? I misquoted the price. I did look it up on Amazon. As of this recording, that rack is approximately $112 on Amazon. Still a great deal. They do have another model of that. It's a little smaller, has fewer bells and whistles on it, for approximately $50, which is a good deal as well. The links are below. I want to thank my sponsor Viver again for that product. I want to thank my contact Melody at Viver, who's always very patient with me. She sends me these products and I procrastinate getting around to putting them together sometimes, but one more down and just a few more to go for the month, Melody. I'll get to them. But I put that together this morning several hours ago. Because I wanted to wait to come out and tell the creepy stories. One's not so creepy. It's very of a supernatural nature. Another one is very inquiring, and I think the first story sent in by one of our viewers. Big shout out to Darla Arrington, who's got a YouTube channel. I'm going to plug it and tell you guys how to go watch Darla's videos. She sent in several stories throughout the years for me to share here, and she sent in another wonderful one. I'm going to share it with you here in a minute. But her story kind of shed some light on a nearly 80-year-old mystery, the story that I'm going to share with you here today. So both of these stories are true. But I wanted to point something out about why I often have like life chats or life advice chats or business advice chats because, some crazy guy that makes strange videos on the internet and runs a bunch of Facebook pages. But in essence, I'm a business person. I'm an entrepreneur. And so there's a business side to you don't see when you're just taking in the content for sheer entertainment. But here's a little piece of advice, and I'm going to give you this because Darla herself, this might benefit her as she continues to grow her YouTube channel. And many of you out there who are trying to get into social media content creation, or maybe who have businesses elsewhere in other areas, this might help as well. And I learned this from a business class many, many years ago, not in college, but from an actual corporation who puts the rubber to the road. This didn't come out of a textbook. This came from a top producer. I used to be a stockbroker my first 8 years out of college, and I'm so glad I was, because I grew up knowing nothing about finances, didn't come from money, did what a lot of first-generation college kids do, went to college, couldn't afford to pay for it, took out loans, entered the real world with a bunch of debt, credit card debt on top of that, and just didn't really know where I was going. Fortunately, I got into the financial planning services sector, and it got me straight as a young adult. So I'm not in a nasty boat now that I'm in my 50s, like a lot of folks in their 50s are. But I went to a symposium at this company's home office, and I'm not going to name the firm. And I got to listen to some $1 million producers talk. These were men and women who made over $1 million a year in commissions, and they gave some advice. And this piece of advice I took to heart, and I do it, and it will explain why I spent that hour piecing together that rack this morning, first thing in the morning, as soon as my kid got on the bus to go to school, and then waited many, many hours later, of course, to do the video, aside from the ambiance. This top producer, this guy that made over $1 million a year, said, listen, there are certain things you have to do throughout your day. This is whether you're in business or not. And he said, think of the thing every day when you're making your to-do list and you're listing all the things you've got to get done that day, no matter what. Think of the thing on that list, once you've created the list, that you dread the most. It's what you want to do the least. He says, okay, now here's what 97% of people do. They put that off till last. They keep pushing that off, okay? And oftentimes, it doesn't even get done until the next day or the next week. And he said, listen, that is a loser's mentality, okay? When you're talking to somebody and they say, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, it needs to be done, but I'll do it tomorrow. You're talking to a loser. Listen, if it has to be done, it has to be done. And if it's on your to-do list for the day, it has to be done that day. That's just an uncomfortable fact. And as we know, feelings don't care about our facts, okay? Wait, facts don't care about our feelings. So he said, what you do is you take that thing you like to do the least, that you want to do the least, and you do it first. You do it first. So that way it's done and it's out of your way. And he said that will affect your mentality and your attitude and just for the rest of the day. He said instead of going through the day, kind of lugging it out, dreading that one thing, putting it off, doing the activities you do enjoy at a slower pace, because you know when you're finished with those, you got to go do that one thing you don't want to do. Do it first and get it done with. You get that weight lifted off your chest. You get that sense of relief. You're more positive, and then you're doing those other things that you do enjoy doing with more energy. All right, so there's your business lesson today from this goofy, nerdy, weird, crazy guy that makes strange videos on YouTube that somehow is quite a profitable business in doing it. Okay, now let's get first to Darla's story. Okay, so Darla sent me this story in an email. And folks, if you have any stories pertaining to the paranormal, supernatural, cryptids like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, any of that stuff, UFOs, aliens, and you want me to share them with the channel here with our audience, you can email them to me. You've got to give me permission to share your stories, as Darla did. The email address is crazylake@mail.com. It's that simple. No capitals. It's all undercase. crazylake@mail.com. Okay? So Darla sent this in. She basically, I'm going to paraphrase the first couple of paragraphs of her story, but she basically talked about her childhood. She was born to a very young mother, as in an underage mother. Her biological father was not in the picture. She would, as she got a little older, but still during her childhood, her mother would marry an abusive man. So she had a very abusive stepfather. Sad story. And this was, I think Darla mentioned that she's in her 60s now. So this would have been back in the early 60s, 1960s. And they were of the mindset that you ate everything on your plate. Now, folks, listen, I don't know. I mean, the knowledge is out there now. I don't know if anybody, there might still be people who aren't aware of this. That leads to eating disorders and obesity. If you raise a child to eat everything that's on their plate, even past the point once they're full, that becomes a habit. And folks, we become our habits. And those people have a tendency to grow up to be binge eaters, or they overeat in excess, and they struggle with weight problems their whole life. Just an FYI. So focus on smaller portions. Have them eat all that if it's a smaller portion. But but this abusive stepfather would give these large portions, and if Darla didn't eat it all, abuse would occur. So she would eat to the point of where she was sick. It's a really sad story she sent me. And so the guy also, get this, his remedy for her being sick from having overeaten as a child was to take a shot of an adult beverage. And I'm not going to come out here and say it on social media, but we all know what that means. And then go to bed. A child, right? So multiple abuses going on here. It's terrible. So she said it happened one evening. She ate so much. She was so sick. She took the shot of the adult beverage, went to bed. It was so terrible that the next day she felt like she was going to pass on. I mean, she was just miserable. She heard her abusive stepfather leave the house. She got out of bed. She told her mom, this is terrible. And the mom just says, well, go outside and get some air. So she goes outside and gets some air. And this is where I'm going to pick up with the story. Darla writes, I woke up the next morning to the door slamming as he left, etc., etc. Felt like I was going to die. It took all my strength to get up and get dressed, but I did so, and I slipped outside, all without a word to my mother. Okay, so she didn't say anything to her mother. She just went outside. The evening before, she was complaining to her mother that she was sick, and her mom was kind of just saying, suck it up and drive on. I walked up my sidewalk that I was quite familiar with. However, this day was different. There was a house in this otherwise very typical neighborhood that suddenly had an unusual illuminated yard. There were beautiful flowers, trees, bushes, butterflies, an arch and stone path, and a little girl about my age I'd never seen before. She was very friendly and immediately asked me to come over to play. I was so sick, but her friendliness was so welcoming. Within moments, we were inside this home that was completely different than ours. It had herbs hanging from the ceiling, food cooking on the stove, and bacon in the oven. Baking, not bacon in the oven. There was food baking in the oven. So I got to clarify that with my Southern/Appalachian American accent. The adult woman, I assumed was this little girl's mother, wanted me to have a spoonful of medicine. Well, I was told never take anything from strangers, and I expressed my concern to this exceptionally comforting woman. Both the woman and the little girl not only assured me it was okay and that it would help me feel better, but it even tasted good. In fact, it was so safe, the little girl gladly took a teaspoon first. The medicine was a beautiful, vibrant color I had never seen before in a medicine, as it was a blue-green, more on the blue side in color, but with a white shine. And the flavor was heavenly. It was so very beyond delicious. Just then, I heard my mother calling my name, so I very sadly and reluctantly, yet fear was quite motivating, had to go home. Nonetheless, I was immediately healed. I went home and my mother hadn't realized I had even left our yard. She didn't even think to ask me how I felt. It was a day or two before I could go back outside to play, but I couldn't wait to find my new friend. I looked for her, but realized I didn't remember her name. I looked for the house with the abundance of flowers, trees, butterflies, but the spot I thought it was in stood an empty house with basically a dead yard. The spot where I thought it stood, it was basically an empty house with a dead yard, and I never found them again. One of your biggest fans, Darla. So it sounds to me kind of like, we've heard of guardian angels. Could this have been a situation of such? Now listen, I would really love it if we could help Darla out and get her YouTube channel going. I will put a link to her YouTube channel in the description box of this video, along with that Beaver product, the fishing pole rack. But there it is. It's if you're on youtube.com, just do a / at whatever that says. What's that say? At Loving and Living Maine / videos. The name of her channel, it's Farmstead Down East Maine, aka the Nest Next Door. And again, I'll put the link directly in the description box. Please go over there, subscribe to her channel, watch some of her videos, help her get some watch time. And Darla, the stories you've sent in throughout the years, and most of them appear in the True Hauntings series, those books. I think there's 9. I think we're working in 10. This one will certainly go in volume 10. Do what I do. If you have the time to do it and you want to do it, go out there and sit in your woods and tell some of your stories. They're amazing stories. I'm sure we'd all love to hear them and watch them on your channel. Darla is raising birds. She's got quail, and she's got many chickens, over 100 chickens, I think she said, and something called a chicken. It's kind of like half turkey, half chicken. That's what my Jersey Giants are. The brothers that bred them in New Jersey in the late 1800s were trying to replace turkeys for meat, and they came up with these Jersey Giants. But Darla raises chickens. I remember the turduckens. Remember that from John Madden, the old football announcer? He used to have those on Thanksgiving when the Cowboys played the Redskins. It was a chicken inside a duck inside a turkey. It was called a turducken. That's what it was, a turducken, yeah. All right, so listen, about 3 weekends ago now, I guess it's been, my beautiful bride Dearly, aka Giggly Girl, and our son Daniel, we went over to West Bygod, Virginia. We had a wonderful day. We did all kinds of stuff that day, but we went to Seneca Rocks in West Virginia, and they have a restaurant there, and they've got a store down on the bottom. And anytime I'm just traveling and these out of the way places, you go to these gift shops, and they always have books of like local urban legends and folklore. And I always buy one or two. I look for something. If it seems remotely interesting, I make myself purchase it. I'm an avid reader. I read up to 10 novels per month. I read easily over 100 novels a year. I do read some nonfiction too. And I usually write a book a year. I've been resting on my laurels here the last couple of years. Haven't written a full-length novel since The Lunatic, which is an awesome book. Best one I've ever written. Available in print and Kindle on Amazon. The link's in the description box below. It shows the dark side of the woke insanity. So much of the terrible tragedies that have been happening because of that mental illness, I predicted in that book before the killings. It's crazy. But I picked up a book there at Seneca Rocks, West Virginia, that the first story in the book is of one of the oldest mysteries in the last century, which has been studied by people around the world. It did take place in West Virginia. It took place in Fayetteville, West Virginia. And many of you have probably heard about it. I grew up in West by God, Virginia, an hour and a half away from where this happened. This happened in Fayetteville, West Virginia. It's called the Sodder Fire. That's the family's last name, Sodder. And here's a road monument that stood for many, many years. 2, 3, 4, 5. Had 5 children on there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 children in the picture, but listen, here's what happened to 5. So, who wrote this? Let's give them some credit here. I'm not going to read anything from the book, but this was written by Susan Williams. She went around, and there's several stories in here, all that took place in West by God, Virginia, and she put together a little short story collection. But here's basically the story of the Sodder family. So, Mr. and Mrs. Sodder had 10 children. Okay, Mr. Sodder was a mechanic. He ran a shop out of his basement, and he had an office upstairs from the basement on the first floor level of his home that had a phone in it. This was 1945 when the fire happened. So through the early 40s, he's doing this. Having a phone in your house, especially in West Virginia in 1945, was really amazing. Then there was a second story. It was a 2-story house with a basement. So 10 children. He was a mechanic, worked from home. He and his wife were both Italian immigrants. Now, during the Second World War, as you'll remember, Mussolini was a dictator, fascist, actually, a real one. And he partnered with Hitler. And Mr. Sodder spoke out publicly against Mussolini. Not like, and this was just some guy that lived in a small rural backwoods holler in West by God, Virginia. So when I say spoke out against him, I'm talking about at the barber shop, or maybe down at the gas station when he was standing there drinking a pop cola like Andy and Barney on, that one show. Yeah, Mayberry, the Andy Griffith Show. I mean, that's what it was like. All the roads were dirt, no pavement. This was the old days. Well, some of what I'm going to tell you comes from this book, and a lot of it comes from Wikipedia. I hadn't heard about this until probably 15 years ago. Somebody from back where I grew up told me about it. She told me the whole story. I couldn't believe I hadn't heard it. And so I kind of researched it pretty in-depthly because it was just such an amazing story. There were other Italians in the area who were loyalists to Mussolini, and they didn't like the fact that this guy spoke out against him and his tyranny. And they would make idle threats. There was one story that says he owed the Italian mafia money. And listen, let me clarify that. Having come from Appalachia, it's not even so much that if you owed the Italian mafia or the Irish mafia money, it's not so much that you were doing dirty deeds, dirt cheap, or anything like that. It's just that when you were an immigrant, and this is part of history that they don't want to teach in the public schools, and these are just facts, folks, they don't teach about how Caucasian immigrants, when they first arrived at Ellis Island, the Irish especially, how terribly they were discriminated against, how just all these things. The Italians were part of it too. So basically, if you were an immigrant, you couldn't get a job. Might be why Mr. Sodder had his own mechanic shop. He probably couldn't get one in a traditional mechanic shop. You couldn't borrow money. If you walked into a bank, even if by modern standards your FICO score was over 800, you had no debt and a great income. If you were Irish, if you were Italian, they weren't going to loan you any money because they didn't want your kind in here, right? This is back in the old days. They would put signs on restaurants that say, no dogs, no N-words. You know what I'm saying there? And they would use that word. And then they would say, and absolutely no Irish. I mean, it was just, them were the times these folks lived in. So, Christmas Eve, 1945. Back then, at least for this family, the tradition was to stay up and open your gifts on Christmas Eve. You go to bed. Who cares what time you wake up the next day? And that's what this family did. Well, around midnight, and I got this from the book. Let's see. A couple strange events happened. Around midnight, the phone rang. So Mrs. Sauter got out of bed and she answered the phone. Who could be calling at midnight on Christmas Eve, early Christmas morning, right? She answered the phone. Nobody said anything and they just hung up. So she hung up. She went back to bed. Around 12:30, she was awakened again by what she thought sounded like a rock being thrown onto the roof of the house. She, shrugged it off, went back to sleep. Sometime later in the night, she awakened to the smell of smoke. She woke up and she realized her house was on fire. So she woke up her husband. They had their infant child, the youngest of the 10 children, sleeping with them. And they had 2 older boys who were sleeping downstairs in the living room. They got them. They got out of the house, and Mr. Sauter and the boys started trying to put the fire out from the outside. Well, they had always kept a ladder on the outside of the house that went up to the bedroom where all the children slept. And listen, 1945, and a lot of you folks are boomers, you'll remember these times. Like, for example, our house, built in 1903, the original portion of our house only had 4 rooms. It had the living room area downstairs where they would cook on the wood stove. There was a master bedroom downstairs, and then upstairs there were 2 bedrooms. Our house was a sharecropper house. You might have had a dozen people sleeping in any of those rooms at any given time. So all the kids, it sounds like, slept in one room upstairs. They kept the safety ladder outside. Well, the father goes around, and the ladder's gone. And it had always been there, but the ladder is gone. Okay, so he had 2 trucks. He goes to get one truck to start it because he was going to drive the truck up to the side of the house, jump up on the cab of the truck, and try to get into the window that way to pull the children out. There were 5 children up there. The other 5 were downstairs, okay? Well, the truck wouldn't start. So he goes to his other truck. That truck wouldn't start either, so neither truck would start. They managed to make one phone call on the phone before they just couldn't go into the house anymore because it was an inferno. They called the fire department, the Fayetteville Fire Department, and even though they called, this was around 1-ish in the morning, for some reason, they didn't get there until 8 a.m. the next morning. Okay, the fire chief, according to this book, again, written by Susan Williams, claimed that, he didn't know how to drive the fire engine, so he needed to wait. That's my turducken chicken duck down there. He needed to wait until somebody who knew how to drive the truck would arrive, which wasn't until 8 a.m. the next morning. So they get to the house. People were there throughout the night watching the house burn. There's a story that says somebody was seen stealing some things out of the garage, like some tackle. I guess that means like for fishing or whatever. But they never found those 5 children that were upstairs. There was never any remains. No human remains were found in the ashes of that fire. They had the best fire investigators of the day come and investigate. They said that if those kids had died in this fire, be it through the smoke inhalation or the fire itself, we would find their remains because the temperature wasn't hot enough and the fire didn't burn for long enough to destroy all of the remains of any bodies, especially the skeletons. They said in the least we would find bones. They found none of this. None of it. They never figured out where those 5 children went. Those 5 children never at any time contacted their parents or their family. I think they ranged in ages from, I think they were 12 and below, just somewhere from 12 and below. The parents hired investigators throughout the years up until they died. And the mother died in 1989, and I think the father died in the 70s, I believe. I could be mistaken. But they never gave up hope. They never stopped searching. But those children were never heard from again. The leading theories suggest that they were kidnapped. Some believe by the Italian mafia who was owed money. Some believe it was just done maliciously by folks who were supporters of Mussolini. And so you'd ask, well, wouldn't those children question the people that took them? Like, where's the rest of my family? Well, along those lines, the belief is that whoever took them told the children that the rest of the family died in the fire. There were multiple reported sightings of some of the children in Florida. throughout the years. And the father himself thought that he saw one of his sons in a picture somewhere up in New York at a school. And he actually traveled to New York from West by God, Virginia. But school authorities thought he was crazy and wouldn't let him in and wouldn't let him around any of the children. But no one knows. No one has any of the facts of what happened to those Sauter children. And even though that happened on Christmas Eve, I couldn't think of a more creepy, mysterious story to tell that many of you probably haven't heard before here for our October night storytelling. And I want to tie that to Darla's story, because if we do believe in the supernatural and we do believe that there are angels out there, which is what it sounds like helped Darla when she was sick, could it be that guardian angels swept these children away so that they wouldn't perish in that fire? Clearly, they did not perish in that fire. There were no human remains found after that fire. And that's an avenue that the detectives never went down. They were looking for human involvement. They never questioned the supernatural. They never questioned UFO activity, alien activity. So just to throw that out there, because if nothing else makes sense, why would you discredit those possibilities? So with all that said and our stories done, I want to thank you for being here with me again for another set of stories for our October night stories. What is today's date? As of right now, it's October 21st. So we got 10 days left until Halloween. So I intend to come out here and keep telling stories if you want to keep coming around to the channel and keep listening to them. Again, please go like and subscribe to Darla's channel. Watch some of her videos. I will be putting that link in the description box below. Thanks, Beaver, for sponsoring this video with that wonderful fishing and tackle rack. See you all for more next time.